I dreamed I saw Joe here last night, alive as you and me. Says I, but Joe, you're 10 years dead. I never died, says he. I never died, says he. In Salt Lake City, just as I am standing by my bed, they framed you on a murder charge, says Joe, but I ain't dead, says Joe, but I ain't dead. The copper bosses killed you, Joe, they shot you, Joe, says I. Takes more than guns to kill a man, says Joe, I didn't die, says Joe, I didn't die. And standing there as big as life, and smiling with his eyes, says Joe, what they can never kill, went on to organize, went on to organize. From San Diego up to Maine, in every mine and mill, where workers strike and organize, it's there you'll find your hill. It's there you'll find your hill. I dreamed I saw Joe here last night, alive as you and me. Says I, but Joe, you're 10 years dead. I never died, says he. I never died, says he. I never died, says he.
There's been enough and more than enough said about me, so I want to talk about something else, and that is the Tenement Library, and particularly the archives. I think that one of our major problems in the United States is our failure to know history, to care for history, to realize the importance of history. I found this when I was doing work comparatively in American literature and English literature. In England, for example, the Chartists referred constantly to Shelley, Shelley referred constantly to Milton, and each of the great writers thought of their ancestors. In the United States, to take a simple example, the abolitionists never mentioned the founding fathers, the transcendentalists never mentioned the abolitionists. There is no sense of continuity, no sense of that. And it's really a very important failure in activism as well as other things. For one thing, it is very hopeful when we look at the dark world around us and the lack of activity here. I think of the 20s. When in the 20s there was a moribund socialist party, no communist party at all, and you had nothing but not even the beginning of active trade unionism. Well, the situation is a bad one today, but it's no more hopeless than it seemed to us to be in the 20s. And similarly, you look back to a great many things that are something for today. For example, metaphors are often very confusing. You talk about the tidal wave of history, and it's a good metaphor in some senses, and the tidal wave of history is against us at the moment, it seems. But using a metaphor like that helps us to forget that men can build dikes against a wave, and that the tidal wave is not something which is absolutely necessary. There are two, I think, seriously mistaken ways of thinking of history. One we are not very much in danger of, the great man theory of history. The other is, I think, almost equally misleading, to think of it as a mechanical force which is outside of people. And what it seems to me, the archives here and the work of the Tenement Library in keeping records of working people, of radicals, and so on, is against both these currents. It shows that it is people, individual people, who are important. As Engels said, what one man wills is never accomplished. But what happens would be different if these individuals had not willed as they had done. And so I think that it is a very important thing. You remember Brecht said that Alexander conquered Greece. Alexander alone? Caesar ravaged India. Was there not even a cook in his army? Well, actually, here we have records of the cooks and others who helped, whether it was to ravage India or whatever purpose, but an idea of how important each person is and how you contribute to the final solution, the final answers, whether or not your own work is going to go exactly in the direction you meant it to. So I can't tell you, of course, how very happy I am at this wonderful occasion here, and how very glad. I want to add one practical footnote, that my new class begins tomorrow night. And it's a class in good political poetry, with the good underlined, because I think too many young radicals thinking with their hearts and not their heads break up prose into short lines and call it free verse, which isn't really what comes out. And unfortunately, there has been some good poetry written for ideas which I consider false, so we will be considering those things too. But thank you all very, very much. They say praise to the face is open disgrace, but I found it very, very happy making, and I'm very grateful to the Tenement and also to all of you who came out tonight. Thank you.
To the other thing I want to talk about, and that's memory. It seems to me that the real thing, the real core of civilization, Jerry said that, Engels said work is the secret of being human, and he did, and it is a great deal of the secret, but a great deal of the secret of being human is simply being able to read, and of course being able to write, to print. The only way that one can really outlive a very short, 100 years perhaps, a very short time, is through the accumulation of books, of history. And that's something else that you don't have beside radicalism in the United States. A real feeling for history, a real respect for it, a teaching of history the way you get in every other civilized country. And the history is so terribly important. It's the only way that you really can have, you get a lot of nonsense printed, you get a lot of lies told, but the only way that you really can outlive a very short lifetime is through knowing history, through living history. And it is that you get not only in actual history books, of course, but in literature. And in some ways you get it more in literature. Virginia Woolf said, a biography can tell you only half-truths. For more than that, you need a novel. The inside as well as the outside is true. It is only through knowing what people felt, what they thought, and so on. And you yourself all often are surprised if you find an old letter you wrote, a diary note, something of that sort, to see how vividly and truly you thought something many, many years ago. It has been another revelation in reading memoirs and reading biographies and so on, to see how different the thing seemed at the time to the person. When I was with von Lukács in Hungary, he said that at that time, he was what seemed old to me. He was 82 at the time, and that seemed an old age. And so he said that, you know, I need 10 more years to be able to do two things. I want to write an anthology to complete the anthology I'm working on, and I want to write an autobiography. And I was presumptuous enough to say, write the autobiography first. Somebody else someday may be able to do the anthology, but nobody will ever be able to do the autobiography. And Lukács said rather indignantly, maybe somebody can do my anthology, but he obviously didn't believe it at all. Anyway, he then said, I was just now remembering an argument with comrades 40 years ago, and I thought to myself, can I possibly have been so clear at that time? Maybe I'm miscoloring as I think back. Maybe I'm not really remembering what I thought. And he said the very next day, a book was published by the widow of an old comrade. And in that book she said, Georgie was here, and you can't believe how foolish he is. He was arguing so and so and so and so. And that was exactly what he remembered himself as arguing. And so he was delighted and felt that he could write an autobiography that would give the truth of the time. Well, I think that the importance of books, of having books preserved, and the importance of a room where people can sit and consult books and think about them. And I remember when my English book was being published, I had promised Marcantonio at that time that I would be the staff really for the campaign. One other person was working on it. He needed about 10 to do what we were doing. And I told Ma, I have to be correcting proofs in the office because my proofs are coming in. And the very first sentence of the proof I got was Milton, leaving the quiet and still air of delightful studies to pursue the truth. Well, that was so far from what we were doing at the time that I began to laugh and try to tell off what I was laughing about. But the combination of activity and reading books is important, and it can't exist unless you have the books and have the respect for books. And that's the thing that it seems to me, having a room dedicated as a library, and I am very, very flattered and pleased that it is dedicated to me. And I was more pleased and happy to see that my dear friend Marcantonio and Arthur Philibert and my dear friend Kathy are remembered in that library. And that is always going to be a great pleasure, a great comfort to me to know that. Now, there were one or two other things I ought to say before stopping. And one is how glad I am to see so many younger people here. And for me, anyone under 50 is younger. Because after all, half your age has to be young. And so I'm very glad we just lost a great figure, Harry Magdoff. I spoke at his memorial meeting last Sunday. And we know that was mentioned too young, as a matter of fact. And it's very, very gratifying, very encouraging to see that there are young people here, young people coming to do that kind of work, young people building this. And I have to mention just one, and that was somebody who is more than anyone else, I think, responsible for this beautiful building that we are in, this beautiful thing. You know, in the Middle Ages, there was this is from the record, it's real. There was a small question about rebuilding a church that had been burnt. And in the minutes of that cathedral town, it says, they passed a resolution, let us build a church so large and so beautiful that those who come after us will think us mad to have attempted it. This is not so large, but this beautiful place begun in a time when every place is closing, every place is going, is entirely the vision to begin with of Liz Mistress. And I think that we roll over a great Mary and the others who have worked so hard here all deserve our thanks, but they deserve more than that. They deserve our help. And I'm sure that you're all going to give it to him, and I hope to be a few more years to watch you doing it. Thank you. To keep it very brief. I must say to begin with, I've had an extraordinarily fortunate life. A very happy one, with the necessary sorrows, but nevertheless a very happy life. And I was very fortunate with my family, as you have seen some of it, my parents. I must say that when the depth of the McCarthy, so-called McCarthy period, when 2 FBI guys were haunting our house, when my insurance was all cancelled because I had people of all races coming to the house, and these were obviously a security risk, and so on. My mother went on a lecture tour with me, and we were at the San Diego Zoo, which is a wonderful zoo, and watching the turtles crawling there. And Mother turned to me and said, you see, Tetsie, even a turtle can't get anywhere without sticking its neck out. And one of the things that I remember most from very early childhood is my mother telling me, always talk to strangers. And that was something actually that my dear sister Regine learned much better than I did. She was wonderful at talking to strangers, and that she became a psychoanalyst. And judging from what I hear from ex-patients and so on, was a tremendously effective one. So my whole life has really been a very fortunate one in many ways. And the one way I want to mention tonight, and there have been a great many tragedies, collapse of the Soviet Union, the revelations of that, many other tragedies of that nature. But what really has needed a very happy life are, I think, two things that I want to recommend strongly. One is that I do have a real passion for poetry, and that actually, even in the darkest times, art, poetry, maybe your art is music, maybe your art is visual, but this is very important. As Keats says, a thing of beauty is a joy forever. Its loveliness increaseth. It will never pass into nothingness, but still will keep a bower quiet for us, and a sleep full of sweet dreams and peace and healthful breathing. Therefore, on every morrow are we breathing a flowery band to bind us to the earth. And that's something to remember in these times, that there is that in our lives, if we keep it that way in our lives. As Brecht says, everything changes. You can begin a new life with your latest breath. What has happened, has happened. The water you poured into the wine cannot be drained off, but everything changes. You can begin a new life with your latest breath. I just finished teaching a course in Brecht, and that was our finale. I think he succeeded there in summing up the law of dialectics in 6 short lines. That, I think, many people, I've always felt, and that was when I first began to write my history, great tradition in English literature, I was horrified to find how many good comrades had no idea at all that the great writers of the English and American tradition were really their comrades. Had they been taught so badly in the schools, or so mistaught, that nobody realized their stand for humanity and so on. And so I felt it was a mission, really, to introduce communists to Shakespeare and literary people to the comrades. The other thing, and that I think is something we don't realize always, is that by devoting yourself to a great cause that you believe in, Thoreau said that real friendship is not two people looking steadily at each other. It's two people looking steadily in the same direction. And that, I think, is love and friendship. And as a byproduct, you can't aim at it, but I have in my life met all the very best people, or rather the people I've met have been the best people. The people who were attracted to the cause, who dedicated themselves, the people who do us honor by joining us, like Pete Seeger and Hushing Bear, and I feel very honored that they have come. And so actually, when people say that's human nature for you, I think of a very different thing than that adage usually means, because really, by working for what you believe in, by working for something good and important, you not only may do some good in the world, which is your purpose, but as a byproduct, you have a very happy world populated with wonderful, wonderful friends like the people here. Thank you very much. So long as men have eyes to see, or wits to read, so long lives this, and this give life to thee.
I dreamed I saw Joe here last night, alive as you and me. Says I, but Joe, you're 10 years dead. I never died, says he. I never died, says he. In Salt Lake City, Joe, says I, am standing by my bed. They framed you on a murder charge, says Joe, but I ain't dead. Says Joe, but I ain't dead. The copper bosses killed you, Joe. They shot you, Joe, says I. Takes more than guns guns to kill a man. Says Joe, I didn't die. Says Joe, I didn't die. And standing there as big as life, and smiling with his eyes, says Joe, what they can never kill, went on to organize, went on to organize. From San Diego up to Maine, in every mine and mill, where workers strike and organize, it's there you'll find Joe Hill. It's there you'll find Joe Hill. I dreamed I saw Joe Hill last night, alive as you and me. Says I, but Joe, you're 10 years dead. I never died, says he.